Have you ever felt that sudden wave of panic starting to creep in, just threatening to take over your whole entire day? What if I told you there was a simple and powerful 3-step formula that will absolutely stop it in its tracks before it becomes a full-blown panic attack? Well, then you're going to want to stay with me till the end, because today I'm going to share with you this very tool that can transform those anxious moments into empowering experiences. Hi there and welcome back to my channel for this week's episode of How to Overcome Anxiety. Now, if you're new here, my name is Jacob Orlansky and I'm your break-free anxiety coach. And I help women break free and conquer anxiety so they can embrace the life they were meant to live. Look, today's topic is probably one of my favorite because this tool that I'm going to share with you today is by far one of the most powerful tools that you're not only just going to use in the example I'm going to share with you today, but you can use for the rest of your journey to help you really accelerate living life on your terms. Now, it's absolutely crucial that we consistently stay on this pathway to completely break free and resolve from our anxiety in our past. During that process, it's great to have a set of tools and resources available to you to help you to manage the anxiety. And at least I know that was the case for me. Because when I first started my journey, I literally couldn't leave my own home because I was just so fearful and so scared, and this anxiety was just absolutely crippling. So I needed some tools to help me get to the point where I could go out and start thinking about healing and what that might even look and feel like. Does that make sense? And so whatever that journey is for and wherever you're at, I hope this really serves you well. Now, the little inside secret is that even once you do totally break free from your anxiety, this tool that I'm sharing with you will stay with you forever. You'll see what I mean when we get to the end of it. Now, by now, I'm guessing your anxiety is kind of like the best friend that you wish you never had. And what I mean by that is you know it so well, so intimately. You've had this for probably many, many months, or if not, like a lot of the clients that I work with, for decades and decades. So unfortunately, it's so well known to you that you just know all of its little intricacies and quirks. Now we're going to use that to our advantage. What I mean by that is that anxiety is much easier to handle when it's just starting in its early phase of starting to take over our mindset or our body or our emotional state that we're currently in, right? So once it sort of gets out to the point of being almost like a full panic attack, it's so hard to get it back down, right? And you know what I'm talking about. But if we can get at this early stage and interrupt it and stop it from really taking over, that seems much easier, just in a logical sense, right? So what we want to do is want to use the intimate knowledge that we have about our anxiety to our own advantage. So you're going to notice there are some things that start to happen within you that consistently take place right before your anxiety really gets out of control. So what we want to do is note them down, like literally note them down. So you just absolutely know and start thinking about it, because you might think it's one thing, but that thing's actually step 5, 6, 7, or 8. When you really put some time and energy into it, you might realize, wow, actually the very first thing is my heart rate starts just going up a little bit, or I get a nervous twitch with my hand, or my eyes start looking for the exit signs, like I don't even know why I don't feel any danger or any response. Like whatever it is for you, I guarantee you there are some really early signs that you may not be totally and acutely aware of. And if you are, that's great, because this will be a really quick process. But if you haven't, I challenge you just to play with it just a little bit, right? So once you've got those moments down, then we can start implementing the actual formula, which I'm about to go into next. Because if you don't know where the whole anxiety or anxiousness really starts within your journey, what are the patterns and signs and symptoms to look out for, it just makes the journey a little bit harder. And let's be honest, it's hard enough as it is, right? So let's make it as easy as we possibly can for ourselves. Now, just before we get into the 3-step formula, make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications button so you get notified when we drop these new weekly bits of content. So as I shared with you earlier, this is by far one of my favorite tools to teach my clients, mainly because it's so powerful and makes such a dramatic impact instantly, even before you become an absolute master at it. You can have some really significant changes. Then, like I said to you earlier, even once you break free from your anxiety, this tool will absolutely stay with you because you need it for the rest of your life. And like I said, it will make sense in just a couple of minutes. So make sure you stick through all the way to the end, because you're going to need all 3 steps within this formula. Now, this formula is known as state management. I picked it up from an incredible mentor of mine by the name of Tony Robbins, but I know I've used it ever since that. Literally that very moment that I got taught it, it is that powerful. So in this 3-step formula, now you want to make it in the exact order that I'm running it so you get the best benefit out of it. Okay, now here we go. Step number one. Step number one is physiology. How we use our bodies, our facial expressions, and our breathing will instantly change the emotional state we're in. So I want you to imagine this whole premise of this formula is always to be used right at the very earliest phases as the anxiety is just starting to come up. So I just want you to keep that in mind, right? Now, what you want to do is you want to start thinking about, well, how am I using my body and my face and my breathing to represent the emotional state that I want to have? Not the one that's just about to come on, you know, that anxiety attack that's about to happen, right? So you might think to yourself, right now, I just want to feel calm or confident or secure or peaceful, right? Or maybe I'm about to go out to something where I need to be focused or committed, or I'm about to go to a party or some type of a dinner and I want to be, you know, present and joyful and blissful. Whatever it is, right? You get to pick that emotional state that you want to be in right now, okay? Once you have that, the next 3 steps are all going to be surfaced around that emotional state that you've just chosen, okay? So let's say, for instance, you want happiness and joy, just for argument's sake, right? So you want to have happiness and joy. Well, what would you do with your body, your face, and your breathing to best represent happiness and joy, right? Well, I might be slightly upright, chest up, shoulders back. What am I going to do with my face? Probably have my lips turned up a little bit, right? Just a little smile, right? Just give myself that little bit of reference of happiness and joy. What would I do with my breathing? Would it be short and shallow? Probably not, right? It'd be nice, full, deep breaths, right? Feeling good, feeling the energy running through my body. So that's all I'm doing. I'm just using my body, my posture, my facial expressions, and my breathing to represent the emotional state that I want. Now, an example of this would be, well, what's the opposite of that? If you were, for instance, you know, full of anxiety or feeling sad or depressed, what would you be? You'd be slunched over, your head would probably be down like this, maybe even sitting in your hands. Your breathing would be super short and shallow, right? We've all seen it before. We've all experienced it before, most likely, right? So we know. But if you just bounce straight up, shoulders back, chest up, put a smile on your dial, and make sure your breathing's nice and full all the way down into your belly, that instantly changes your emotional state, right? It just has to. You can't be feeling that old feeling and being in this state. Now, you might be thinking already, Jacob, you've hit the jackpot. Step number 1, I'm good to go. Well, hold on. Before you do that, like I said, once you're in that state of anxiety or anxiousness, we want to make sure that we have all 3 steps utilized, so we're stacking the odds totally in our favor, because we don't want to just get by. We actually really want to crush that anxiousness totally, right? So we're going to use all 3 steps. So now that you've got step number 1, you need to practice that, getting yourself into a state of emotion that best represents what you need in that moment. Okay, let's move on to step number 2. Step number 2 is what we're focusing on. Now, in our mind, I want you to think of it's like a movie playing. What are the images or the movies that you want to be playing that best represent the emotional state that you want? Now, the easiest way to do it is if you've ever had that moment where you felt that emotion, so in this case, we're talking about joy and happiness, go back to a time where you absolutely felt the most amount of joy and the most amount of happiness that you ever possibly could, right? And I want you to play that movie or see those images, see those scenes, hear those people, see the colors brighter than you've ever seen them before. And I want you to think of that like being in a cinematic experience, like a 3D experience, right? Where you just, all your senses are absolutely overwhelmed with joy and happiness, right? So imagine that now. You're just starting to feel a little bit of anxiety come on straight. You think, not this time, I've got you, right? I want to feel joy and happiness. So you sit up, you breathe, and you put a little smile on your dial to represent joy and happiness, right? And then instantly you go straight into step number 2, which was what? Focus, that's right. What are you going to focus on? We want to focus on a time when we experience the most amount of joy and happiness. And then we're just going to watch that movie over and over and over again in our head, turning up all the experiences of the color, of the sound, of the joy and the laughter and the playfulness that was all surrounded within that event. Now, you might be saying, well, let's say I don't have that event, or I don't believe I've ever experienced that event, as in joy and happiness, or I've never really I don't even know what that really feels like. That's okay. I've got you covered. There's 2 other options that we have, right? The second option is that you can either imagine what it would be like. Like you might say, look, I don't believe I've ever experienced true joy and happiness, but I think it would feel like this. I think it would look like this. I think it would sound like this. So you can go ahead and replicate that. And as long as you get the feelings running through your body of that joy and happiness, or whatever the emotional state that you want, then you've got it. That's yours, right? And then the third and final way, if that still doesn't work, if you're like, well, I don't really know what it feels like, so I've never experienced it. That's okay, that makes perfect sense. Have you ever seen it? It might have been in a movie or some people around you or some role models that you really look up to, and you go, that is what joy and happiness looks like. If I had that, my life would be a lot better, right? So then you want to replicate, emulate what you've seen, right? Now, ideally, you've had it before. That's always the best way to go. But if you haven't, that's okay. As I said, there's two other options. So just a quick recap. Step number one is how we're using our physiological state, right? Our body, our facial expressions, and our breathing. Step number two is what are we focusing on? What are the movies and the images that we're going to see that match the emotional state that we want, right? And we said there's three ways you can do that, okay? And then the third and final step, probably one of the most powerful steps that we miss, I don't know, especially in our sort of human state, is the language. So step number three is the language that we use. And it's both internal and external dialogue. Now, what I mean by that is we always have those little voices running our head, right? Telling us stories or picking up things or whatever it might be. That needs to match how we want to experience the other two elements of this three-step process. Meaning that if you're going for joy and happiness, then the words internally might be like, geez, it feels so great to feel true joy and happiness. I can do this. I'm really enjoying this experience. I'm really looking forward to the rest of my day being filled with joy and happiness, right? Or something along those lines, something that's going to match the emotional state that you're wanting to achieve, right? Then the same way as in your external language, when somebody comes up to you, for instance, and wants to have a conversation, so how you're feeling, you want to be true to the emotional state that you're currently wanting to experience or create, right? So now you've already got some of it through step one and some of it through step two. We're just really dialing it in with step three. So you just want it to match. When somebody says to you, how you doing? You feeling? Yeah, I'm feeling really great. I really appreciate you asking. Or when you're just talking to a close friend about whatever experience you're going through, you want to make sure that your words are matching the emotional state that you're wanting to achieve in that thing. Now you've got all three steps. Now, like I said to you, when we did step one, you probably felt incredible. If you did step one and two together, you're like, this is phenomenal. Like, I can't wait to put this into play. And when you put all three pieces together, you're thinking, I've got it. It's totally locked in. And you're right. Now, what I really want to stress just before you head off though, is a couple of things. The very first thing is, like any new skill, it takes a little bit of practice to really master it. And when we're most under stress or pressure, or when that anxiety is really starting to come up, that's the hardest time to really implement this, because consciously you've got a lot of old habits built in about what your normal patterns or reactions would be when you're starting to feel anxious, or when you're about to go into a scenario that might in the past have caused you some level of anxiety. Does that make sense? So what we want to do is actually practice this when we're at our lowest, or preferably no anxiety would be the best. But let's say you experience some level of anxiety all the time. You just want to pick the lowest state where you feel most comfortable and start practicing. Start thinking about going to joy and playful and laughter. Start thinking about going to focused, committed, and serving. Start thinking about being grateful. What are these different emotional states that you would like to experience more often that would serve you in different elements of your life? And then the more you practice and can just snap into it and just be in a particular way, body, focus, and then our words, both internal and external, the more you can master that emotional state. Now, as we wrap up this episode, I want you just to imagine, just for a moment, something would have happened in the past that's now going to happen in the future. One of those moments that would have challenged your anxiety or your anxiousness. And I want you to see yourself utilizing this tool and thinking, how is it going to be different? How am I going to experience that moment now that I've got this tool? And imagine you've mastered it and you just turn it on like that. The very first sign of that anxiety coming on, bang, you go straight into this tool called state management. And all of a sudden you go into that event, that experience, that moment in a completely different state. And I want you to see how good it's going to feel going through that moment, knowing that you've mastered that tool, knowing that all the repetitions you've put in leading up into that moment are going to serve you at the utmost. So right now you have the tools to control and take control of your emotional state. So I trust you found this video useful, and I encourage you to start practicing now, ingraining into your body and your mind the importance of what you've just learned by putting it into practice. Even just for 2 or 3 minutes right now, it will serve you on multiple levels. As always, thanks for joining me, and all the best in your journey in healing from your anxiety.